Hello everyone. Today, I've got an exciting NEO stock update for you all. We'll be discussing potential record deliveries, bullish news, and market analysis. Stay tuned for tomorrow's predictions. Let's get started. I'm also talking about the overall market and some very big things coming out for the week and give you guys my price prediction for tomorrow for NEO moving forward. But before I begin thinking about all this information, so discussing NEO, this thing is continuing to uptrend, making higher highs and higher lows as we are approaching the big deliveries. Now to my video from yesterday, I tell you guys how NEO could give us around 16,700 to 17,700 or even more than that range. That's also very possible. They could give us something close to like 18,000+, who knows. But at this point, I am very confident they're going to give us something above 16,500 at the very least. So that's going to likely be a new record for NEO, and that's part of why NEO is uptrending the way it is. There's a saying that someone knows something. Basically, that's like a very common saying in the stock market. And it seems like someone really does know something about NEO, and we're likely going to get some bullish news. But the question is, will NEO keep going? If you look at the RSI, it's looking kind of overbought. Will NEO just keep going and going, or is NEO gonna pull back a little bit? There's a possibility that NEO retrace just a tiny bit, but overall I think it's going to continue to hold around these levels, and then approaching the big deliveries data, it might just completely pop to the upside and keep going. Now there's always a possibility it just doesn't even slow down much. It could just keep going from here either way. But the point is, either way, the OBS do favor more upside for NEO. Whether it does retrace bit to retest our 20 EMA and then bounces, or if it just keeps going, there's likely gonna be more upside coming. I'm gonna break down exactly why and what I do predict to happen tomorrow specifically. I'm also gonna talk about Tesla and a few others, but right now, a lot of hype around NEO. It's getting very high amounts of attention, lots of volume, and a lot of these investors are talking about stocks like NEO and why on earth this company has once again survived bankruptcy in the past. They've absolutely ran to crazy high levels, and they're looking very strong as time goes on. They also talk about how NEO is looking very significant in terms of its price performance, and why on earth NEO has more and more potential. We're actually discussing more signals about how 2023 for the second half is going to be very strong, just like William Lee Bin said. On top of that, them going global the way they are and getting the support they're getting from the Chinese officials and the government is very bullish news for this company. On top of this, you have to remember that they're continuing to invest in very important technology for the future, from A to the development of autonomous driving. That is all very bullish stuff. Now for now, the question that comes to a lot of investors' minds is, can the company generate more revenue? Can they continue to grow and beat many of the earnings expectations? To do so, we need high amounts of deliveries first, and we have earnings coming out in just a couple of weeks, which will be very telling for NEO. All this data is, in my opinion, pointing in a very good direction for strong guidance, and as long as they continue on this trend, I'm gonna remain more bullish on NEO. Let's talk about the market just very quickly, and I'm gonna talk more about NEO. Just as a reminder, we have Sophie reporting earnings tomorrow. And then for Tuesday, we have AMD, Uber, Pfizer, and just a couple of others. Wednesday, we have PayPal, Shopify, CVS, and a few others. Before Thursday being the big day when we have Amazon, Apple, and Coinbase all reporting earnings on the same day. We also have like Aram and Expedia, just a couple of others. So very big day for Thursday. And it's gonna be a crazy earnings week. Once again, for economic data tomorrow, 50 minutes after the market opens, you have Chicago PMI report coming out. Not that crazy, but it's worth noting. It could affect the market and cause some volatility. But besides that, there's not much else data. Now, NEO just reported that. And right about here on July 30, NEO opened its 1600 power swap station. More bullish news. They will have more than 2,300 stations in total by 2023 by targeting to build another 1,000 of them basically in China this year. Very bullish news for NEO. I'm very excited for this, and this is going to continue to incentivize more investors, more people in China to invest in this company. Because think about it, they're going to have more and more of these battery swap stations all over China. And then once you swap the battery for some of their vehicles, don't forget, like the E6 is going to be able to go almost 600 miles in a single battery. So people will be able to essentially switch out their battery. It's like filling the gas, if not faster than it, and then switch it out quickly, and then go on for another almost 600 miles. Then for their other models, actually go like 300 miles or so. It's going to be higher in kilometers, obviously, because we use miles here, but obviously that's still very, very easy for them. It's very convenient in China. They're trying to do this in Europe as well, but it's going to take longer for them to expand there. But even if that's not the case, you could always charge them simultaneously, right? So once again, very awesome stuff. I love the compatibility. I think this is a very, very great idea. I'm very bullish for the future, not just because of this technology and their investments, not just because Abu Dhabi has invested almost $1 billion into NIO. And ever since they made that investment when this thing was like in the $8 area, ever since they did that, this thing has just been on a tear since then. It's been uptrending very nicely. Seems like they knew a lot about NIO's upcoming numbers. They knew a lot of things, and they made a very, very good investment in my opinion. Now on top of this, let me just add that the price pairs ratio is going up very high. That means that NIO is getting lots of relative strength. It's becoming much stronger than the market and continuing to outperform it. JP Morgan is saying they're neutral on NIO, and besides that, Mondays tend to be the weaker days, but Tuesdays tend to be stronger. I want to remind you all that here in the US, okay, when it's like August 1 through the 2nd, it's going to be a little bit later in China. So between that period, that's when NIO typically reports their delivery. They may do it as soon as a little bit later into August 1 for us here in the US. If not by August 2 for sure, so in American time, by the morning of August 2, I do believe they're going to have their deliveries out, if not earlier. And that's going to be super huge for them. So this Tuesday to Wednesday period is going to be massive. NIO just absolutely explode when all this stuff comes out. Now, despite how much NIO is pumping, a lot of shorts piling and betting that NIO was going to eventually drop, and they do have some reason to do so because it has been pumping a lot, and a decent pullback is very possible for it. Maybe like a small little pullback, but like I said before, they have to be careful because this could also trigger a massive short squeeze. I know that when a stock runs really hard, a lot of people and institutions like shorting a stock. There is some logic behind that. It does have merit. And when I say you should short NIO now, not financial advice, but I necessarily would not do that, to be honest with you. Because with these deliveries coming out, you never know. This thing could just go and just pump like crazy. It's going to get a lot of headlines attention. And a lot of people are going to be discuss that. Now, to add on to this, what else is good about this company is the volume. 115 million in volume, more than twice the average. It's still very, very strong. So what do I think is very likely for Monday? Two possibilities. Okay, that NIO closed just under like $15.14, 7. There is a possibility it could gap down a little bit, slow down just a tiny bit, and retest like $14 flat, and then it just tries to bounce after that. That's one possibility, that retraces just a tiny bit, then starts pumping again back to this 15 area, then just keeps going for 15.25, 16, and 16.8 as our resistance levels all the way up to the 16s. But another possibility would be it doesn't even retrace that much. Investors are so excited, so pumped about what's about to happen to this company that they just keep letting it go. And let's just discuss the possibility on that. Those are the two possibilities basically. Either it retraces a little bit if it gaps down in the morning, or if it's like a little weak in the morning, then just starts pumping, or just keeps pumping straight up, because we have these important levels up here. We have this unfilled gap, which we just filled, I think, on Friday, but then we have the next important level. We have this 15.25 resistance right here. We're going to be discuss the next level. We have this imbalance right about here on the 16 level, and then we also have an unfilled gap all the way up to 20. So I don't know if deliveries alone is going to push this thing to 20, but I do believe as long as we keep getting bullish news, it's gonna make its way all the way up to 22. I think the ODS favor that. I think it looks very bullish, this entire setup. And you have to remember that. Yes, you may argue that NEO is overbought, but it's been oversold for how long as well, continuing to tank the way it was. Like for example, right here. When NEO was right here in the $11 area, you could have argued that it was oversold. But then it went from 11 all the way down to 8. It kept going and it remained oversold for many weeks, right? That could happen. And now we're quite overbought, you could argue that. But that does not mean it's gonna have to retrace really hard. Because if we keep getting bullish news, it could just keep going. Remember Nvidia? People were saying that Nvidia needs to be shorted. Nvidia was overbought. It's gonna crash. Instead, Nvidia did the opposite, no matter what on earth the RSI told us. So sometimes unexpected things can happen with this bullish divergence that formed. It could keep going. So two possibilities: as it retraces a little bit, then it just keeps going, or it just keeps going from here. I think as long as we keep getting good news, we're going to discuss this thing go up to 22 plus. Now once again, I don't know if deliveries alone will pump it that hard. There is a possibility that would be the case, and I would love that. But we need more bullish catalysts. We know for sure we're most likely to get one in just a couple of days, and I'm very excited for this. Now for Tesla, I just want to note that Tesla has been in a very critical level. We've been stuck between our 50 and 200 EMAs for quite a while. I think it's the 30 minutes time frame, or I think it's the 5-minute one of these time frames. It was basically stuck. I think it's the 30 minutes time frame, basically. And it's been going back and forth between these EMAs. And we're going to be discussing if it could actually break above them. I think it's the 4-hour time frame. So we're going to be discussing, could we break above the 50? We break the 50, it's going to go up to 274. If we reject off this, then we could come down to fill this gap and then bounce off the 200 EMA off this 253 area. We've been range bound for the past week, going back and forth. It's actually been quite a while if you just look at the last couple of weeks, back and forth for Tesla. We're going to be discussing which way it breaks in these EMAs. It's kind of sandwiched, and for now, we'll just be discuss that. And then last but not least for SPY and the QQQ. SPY is not really that much different. It's kind of stuck between the 452, it's about 458 area. I think it's gonna attempt to break 458, maybe touch 46, reject again, make its way down to 455 and bounce and trade kind of sideways after that. I think it's gonna pump and then drop and then once again trade sideways. And I think we're still range bound until we get some big catalysts from Apple and Amazon's earnings. So we're gonna be waiting for that. Otherwise, I think the market is going to be kind of sideways. Same thing for the QQQ. I'm just being some sideways price action for this as well. It looks it's going to be testing this 385 level. Could we break it? That's going to be the real question. If it does break this, then this could develop into an accumulation structure. But what you would be anticipating is a potential pullback first, like 382, then another break to the upside. This looks like it may pull back first and then get a bounce and then retest 385. And if that break extend 388, could come to this next resistance zone. But it like an accumulation could be forming, but we need confirmation first. What typically happens, and even like a coffee and accumulation, we had this resistance is a slight pullback, first a retest of like 382 to 380. And then this thing tries to keep going afterwards. That seems like the most probable thing, especially discussing the how many green bars there have been on the 4-hour time frame. That seems more likely. And then we will find out if it does pump this hard, maybe Apple helps this thing pump, eventually approaching its earnings or like right before earnings. Then after earnings, we will see if this thing continues pumping or if it gets a big rug pull, as it depends on the big tech companies. All right. So that's what I'm discuss on for all these different companies. NEO still looks bullish, in my opinion. All right, it either retraces a little bit, then it bounces and just keeps going, or it doesn't get much of a retracement, just keeps going no matter what, because investors are just losing their minds over these deliveries. They're so excited, they're very, very hyped. And I'm actually very excited too. We're gonna most likely get a new all-time high record in monthly deliveries for NIO. The real question is by how many? Will it be a beat by 1,000? Are they gonna give us 1,000 more than their previous record, which was just under 16,000? Or is it going to be much higher than that? Are they gonna give us 18,000, 19,000 deliveries? Who knows? Okay, I'm hyped, I'm excited, but I'm gonna be patient. We're just a couple of days away. Tomorrow in the US is gonna be July 31. In China, it's gonna be close to August 1, basically in Shanghai especially. And then by August 2 to the 3rd, around that period in China. That's when they should be announcing it. So I would say here in the US, between August 1 and August 2, somewhere between there. The announcement should be coming out by August 2 and at the latest here in the US. If not earlier, and when the announcement comes, this thing could go absolutely parabolic. I wouldn't be surprised. This thing goes all the way up to like 16.8 or higher. Even the is a possibility, and I just wanted to note that. Thanks for watching our video on NIO stock. If you enjoyed this content and want to stay updated on the latest investment opportunities, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Remember, investing involves risks, so do your own research before making any financial decisions. Stay tuned for more exciting content, and happy investing.